Hi everyone, welcome to DOdaily Wednesday workout. It's Daz here, checking in for what's actually the first time this week. Of course, DOdaily is my real, honest, relatable take on how things are going. Try to check in every single day to offer some perspective, a little bit of motivation and a little bit of inspiration wherever I can to help people stay positive, stay on top of their thoughts, their frame of mind, and really enjoy the things that are important to us. On a Wednesday, I always like to check in midweek to almost see how things are going, measure what kind of mood and what kind of activity I've been up to. It's a little bit of a reflection of where I'm at and really press on towards the end of the week. Like I said, this week's been somewhat different. Before I get into that, I'll just let you know where I am. That usual old spot down by the river, absolutely stunning this evening. Just coming to the end of a walk around one particular loop I do over a couple of bridges on the longest day. Absolutely stunning, like I say. A couple of pictures I'll post on the end to set the scene. Once again, just making the most of what I've got here on my doorstep in my back garden. It's great for me to do that after an uncertain few days, particularly with this channel, DOdaily. Quite often people have said to me over time, how do you think of what to say? And a lot of the time it just comes naturally, it comes off the top of my head. It's not the most articulate way of trying to encourage the things I do. I appreciate that I'm no expert in the subjects I talk about and try and offer a real lived experience and perspective of. But like I say, it does come kind of naturally because the whole point of it is to discuss what's on in the forefront of my mind, what's on the top of my head. But after last week and the situation in Nottingham, the tragic events in which people lost lives, I just find it difficult to get going this week. And I'm not making excuses. I have been a little bit inconsistent recently, and I've missed one or two episodes here and there, and I tend to sort of beat myself up over it and get a little bit sort of regretful and think I wish I'd said something, anything. You know, that is the whole point for anybody looking in who might need it, who might need a little bit of support. This is a channel that I hope they can relate to somebody who's normal. But this week I have really struggled after the things I spoke about. I think I kind of summed it up towards the end of last week. I spoke really deep about the way I was feeling, the sense of feeling in this city, the sense of feeling with people around me, and how in many ways it had completely knocked us for six. Things like that, you know, things like what happened, of course they're going to do that. But I was a little bit surprised as well, and I spoke at length about that last week. I was a little bit surprised of how it really got under my skin. You know, these things tend to happen in places elsewhere, and whilst we feel them, we don't quite feel them the same. Really got under my skin. And then when it comes to sort of trying to be positive on Monday, trying to create that Monday motivation, I just kind of lost that little bit of spark for doing what I was doing. I thought, how can I be that person who just keeps being positive regardless? And don't get me wrong, I've done it through times of personal tragedy and personal frustration, and times when I've been feeling particularly low. I've been honest about where I'm at. I've been sort of honest when things are really good as well, trying not to gloat and be egotistical, but pass on these messages. So it's not easy a lot of the time, you know, trying to find that balance. But this week I find it really difficult to follow up the fact that I'd summed up what had happened last week. I'd spoke about it at length, and I didn't really want to carry that on, but I wasn't feeling in a fantastic position, I guess, mentally. Whilst I wasn't feeling particularly negative, I wasn't feeling particularly sad. Another great weekend doing nice things with Kay, probably as important as ever after the way we was all feeling. For me to get away, you know, I got down to the coast and enjoyed the seaside, and a couple of really nice simplistic things, getting out for a run, a couple of runs even, that made me feel great. You know, it really picked me up as I sort of went into the start of the week. But like I say, when it comes to sort of talking, when it comes to expressing more feelings and trying to follow that up, I don't know why, I just find it really, really difficult. I guess that only highlights how big these things are. Sometimes they can happen and we can think we've put them behind us, and when we really sort of sit down and think about it, we've not got over things. And it's important to realise that as well, isn't it? Whether it's a situation like this which is not directly involved to me, but of course everybody in this area, everybody who lives where we live is involved, because we're all feeling it. But it's not directly involved, whether it's that or whether it is something that personal tragedy, personal sort of sadness or anything like that. You know, we have to realise when we're not quite over the situation, and I guess that's the message I'm trying to get across today. Is just sort of an understanding of where we're at. It's easy to, I'm always encouraging positivity and saying the right things and doing the right things, you know, to try and put us in a better place. And I genuinely believe that it helps to do certain things, the things I try to advise or put across without preaching, of course. I truly believe in, but I've also felt this week, and I think that it's an important message, is almost not to run before we can walk, in that sense, you know, realise where we kind of are with it, and we're not quite on our A game sometimes. When we think we are, when we think we're over something, you know, we can still just be feeling those after effects. Like I say, I never realised that until it came to speaking on Monday, and then all of a sudden I thought, how can I follow that up? What can I say? You know, what can I do? And a few self-doubts crept in about why I do this. Should I carry on? You know, if this is the way I'm feeling. But on the flip side to that, a couple of things have happened this week, you know, since then, which have made me realise that it is so important for me to find the words, somehow dig deep into my own sort of conscience, into my own mindset, to pass on the importance of talking, you know, communication. Always sort of mention these things whilst I try to encourage activity and well-being and all the things that I enjoy in terms of activity, running, walking, etc. You know, there is a look at mental health, and I've had one or two conversations this week with people who have not quite been feeling it, been really, really struggling, and it's just hit home to me that this is the drive behind DOdaily. This is what I want to do. I want to support and encourage. I keep saying, through the adversity of what people are suffering, do you know, I want to be that port of call. I want to be somebody they can relate to, somebody who can explain their experiences, you know, because not all of us are made like that. Not all of us want to talk, want to be so open and candid about the way they're feeling. But I feel now it's my kind of purpose to keep doing this, you know, keep passing on the messages I do, and really, really sort of try and instill a little bit of positivity, whether it's Monday motivation, midweek motivation, attacking the weekend. You know, it's important for me to keep doing and talking about the things I talk about, you know, and keep being true to myself, in the sense that I feel I've got a little bit of extra purpose, especially when people feel like they can talk to me, you know, when they are really, really struggling. You know, it's important for me just to keep at it, you know, get back to a place where I can let my feelings out, where I can be open, where I can be honest, where I can be really sort of on it, so to speak. So I think that's what's got me back to this point, you know, feeling really, really good about the things I do. Yes, that extra purpose, that extra intention has really helped me in that sense, you know, watching people suffer, watching people feeling it. I don't like to see that, I really, really don't. So I think it's important that whatever's happening around us, whatever crappy situations, you know, we have to use the perspective it gives us. And there was a lot of perspective to come out of the situation last week, you know, and things positively to take forward. I spoke about community and support and encouragement, things I always talk about and do daily, and that was definitely highlighted. They're the things, again, when I'm not quite sure of where I'm at, of where my thought processes are at, I have to remember to keep drilling this message home, that there is support available, there is people who want to understand and people who want to help. And I guess on a Wednesday, when I'm always looking to check in at how the week's gone, in terms of Do Daily, it's not gone anywhere. So this is a perfect chance for me to start reflecting almost. We build up into the week through the motivations I use. As the week goes on, it becomes starting to just look at where it's working, and then there's a little bit of reflection before we go again. So I guess it's a bit of a mixture of Monday motivation, a bit of midweek motivation, Wednesday workout, whatever way you want to look at it, where it's not quite worked for me. But again, through the experiences, through the situations I put myself in, through being that person who wants to help and who people have felt comfortable talking to, it's really, really helped. I've, like I say, had a really nice weekend. I've done a bit more running than I have been recently. I had a couple of days off now because I've been a bit achy. Been to an event this evening, a comedian at the Nottingham Arena, Ricky Gervais, bit of a philosopher himself, and talks about how we have to keep laughing, we have to keep smiling, even through adversity and difficult situations, difficult subjects. And it just hit a note with me as well. I felt it was important to come on after that. I talk about things that are uncomfortable, in the same way he jokes and laughs about things that are uncomfortable, but without getting to the crux of it, without touching on these subjects, people won't realise that they're an actual issue. And I guess, I can keep trying to do what I do, to try and be that little bit better, to try and keep encouraging, hopefully inspiring people to take a look, I don't want to preach at anyone, I don't tell anybody what to do. I use myself as an example, and I use situations without putting people's name to it. It's important just to keep paying it forward, believing in what you believe in. I think that's the most important thing. One thing Ricky Gervais said about him being woke was, if he's woke by touching on these subjects, by doing this and this, then he's woke. But if it means being an authoritarian and doesn't accept anybody else's opinions, or can't be humble enough to accept his own mistakes, then he's not woke. And again, it's just words, isn't it? Sometimes it's just a perspective, it's just a different angle, and it's important to sort of keep taking on people's idealisms, thoughts. I'm into that kind of thing anyway, listening to people and philosophy and things like that. Somebody actually said to me today, which again kind of hit a note, was, you're a little bit of a philosopher, aren't you, Des? I'm not a philosopher in the sense, but some of my opinions, some of my thought processes, I try to sort of get to the crux of where my mind's at, and there's always a good intention behind it. There's always something to try and make it work. Some people don't like me, some people probably run a mile from what I do here, but again, I'm finding that purpose, that intention, that inspiration from others to really, really keep at it, really keep doing what I do. When it's busy, when things get on top of us, it'd be easy to chuck in the towel, and really, really just think, well, I don't need to do that, I'm not very good at it, people aren't listening anyway. But if I don't keep trying, if other people don't keep trying to spread the word, about how we can laugh in the face of adversity, that's what Ricky Gervais was talking about throughout his show, then who is going to do it? We'd all end up in a really, really bad place and have a miserable life. And what he really says is, we're not here long enough. Lots of people say that. He wasn't the first person I've heard say that, but we're not around long enough not to enjoy ourselves, not to be really, really positive and take everything we can. So whilst I was sort of dwelling, I guess, on my thoughts at the start of the week, feel again I've been reinvigorated to really, really push on, take on all my positives, take them forward, you know, enjoy what I do, you know, and do it when I can with a smile on my face. It don't always work like that. It definitely doesn't always work like that. Life can be tough, it can kick us in the teeth. But for those people who might be looking in, might be just feeling it, you know, what we have to do is just work at it, bit by bit, hour by hour, day by day. Work on those relationships, listen to people, you know, talk to people, get people to listen to you, you know, and before you know it, we're pushing on forward and making the absolute most of this precious life that's given to us. That's where I'm at midweek, you know, my check-in, the time I use to look at where I'm going, where I've come from. And it's not been a straightforward week. I've been honest, you know. I don't get it all the time. I don't get myself, I don't get others, but none of us do, because no one's perfect. But we can just try to be that little bit better, like I say, a little bit at a time. And that's all I've got to say, guys. The real sort of the crux of all of that was just to keep using whatever you've got around you, you know, keep being inspired. I've had to dig deep for it. I can motivate myself a lot of the time, but after everything that happened, it really affected me. And just to be aware when we're not quite over something, when we think we're over it and we've go steamrolling into the next thing, but we just have to take that little bit of time to reflect. That's all I do every single day. I use different motivations, I put a different slant on it and the different days, but this is my time to process, to think where I'm at, and to try and support others at where they're at. Hopefully that all makes sense. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate that. It really helps it. If you've got any comments about what I've said, if you've got any questions for the live Thursday Thoughts episode tomorrow, anything on what I've said this week, last week, please do check back on some of last week's. I'd really appreciate those. Drop them in the comments. Anything about what I've said, any feedback, good, bad or indifferent. I know it's a bit sketchy, you know, it doesn't come out as it is up here, but at least I'm moving forward again, and that's important, isn't it? When we have a little false start or a little hiccup along the way, you know, it's important that we go again. That's a recurring message on this channel, and that's definitely what I'm going to be doing now. Until tomorrow's live episode, Thursday Thoughts, any questions, like I say, do post them on any of the videos, any of the social media shown at the end of the episode, and I'd love for you to drive the content and get involved. Until then, just doing it.